Okay guys, seriously, if anybody knows when the next episode is, could you let me know please, because that is just so annoying about having to end that way, and then, there to be nothing anywhere on the internet, at least as far as I can find, to tell me when the next episode is. That is so bloody annoying. Because normally I'm not too bothered about when the next episode of shows that I watch is on, because, I have other things going on in my life. I could just, watch it, when it comes to it, and take my mind off things for a while. But the way that episode ended, it's like, bloody hell, I need to see more. I have to know what's going to happen next, because there's so many unanswered questions now about Stan. Really sort of interesting kind of answers to some questions, with new questions now about Stan and who he is and what exactly is going on. Kind of an explanation as to, who the author is and what this machine is now. But still a lot of questions really about why Stan is doing all of this, what the significance behind his brother is. And also, I think, Dipper and Mabel's involvement in all of this, and, why he decided to keep it a secret from them, how it connects to anything else that happens in Gravity Falls. There's just a lot of questions now that you kind of think that Stan, if he is Stan, or alternatively Stan's brother, who is presumably Dipper and Mabel's grandfather, what they know about everything. So I kind of hope that the next episode is going to be, some kind of big flashback and backstory and everything. It's kind of weird, right at the end of the series. I assume this is kind of the end of the series. We're going to have a bunch of backstory, but I actually think that would be kind of an interesting route. But this episode, it was just, constant edge-of-the-seat type stuff, really. And yet they still managed to get sort of a lot of the light-hearted stuff in there. With obviously a few jokes that Zeus was cracking along the way, even... I was a little disappointed Wendy just had a sort of cameo, but the actual cameo that she had, that was kind of funny. I was hoping she might play a sort of larger role in it. Again, I'm not quite sure exactly what this machine has been doing. Again, maybe we'll find that out in the next episode, and why it's creating all these sort of anti-gravity kind of things the whole time that it's counting down to all of that. Still not sure, how this relates to McGucket and the role he played in all of this, or, if it has anything to do with any of the other weird stuff that happens in Gravity Falls. But again, it's just questions, a lot of questions that you kind of just want answered now, and it just makes you want to see more. So, yeah, I really like that about it. It's kind of frustrating, that we don't know when the next episode is going to be, but yeah, just constant edge-of-the-seat type stuff, mixed with the sort of light-hearted nature of, just the balance that this show can get with that kind of stuff the whole time. And very interesting in the climax, the sort of polar opposite feelings about the situation between Dipper and Mabel. They seem like they're just sort of two halves of one whole most of the time, Dipper and Mabel. They think very much alike, even though they're very different kinds of characters. You feel like, in terms of the sort of black and white sort of what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong kind of things, you kind of feel like they would see things eye to eye. I mean, Mabel, you kind of think at first maybe might be a bit more naive, but actually a lot of the time she is like the voice of reason. She does make a lot of sense in what she does and what she says. So this was kind of an interesting kind of climax, really, where you have Dipper saying one thing and Mabel saying the complete opposite, with Dipper wanting it to be shut down and Mabel deciding, no, not going to shut it down, I trust Stan. And in a sense, I guess we're supposed to think that Mabel was right, since, she's the one who had the final say here. In a sense, she does make a lot of sense. I mean, we're not quite sure who Stan is at this point. Is he actually Stan, or is he just an imposter of anything? But whoever this guy is, whether he's Stan or not, he's done a good job taking care of these kids over the summer. He does care about them, obviously. And, if this kind of doomsday machine is going to destroy the world just instantly, it's going to kill him as much as it's going to kill anyone else, So I think it's very unlikely it's going to have, real dire consequences to anyone. To like him or anyone around him. I think, it's possible, there may be long-term sort of worse effects for all of this. But deep down, you kind of know that whoever this guy is, whether he's Stan or not, he's a good guy. He has good intentions in everything that he does. So, yeah, what Mabel does, I think, by trusting Stan at the end there, that does make a lot of sense. The only kind of minor thing that kind of annoyed me actually about that climax is it's kind of a lot of sort of cliches that I was kind of hoping they'd acknowledge, because Gravity Falls does do that quite a lot of the time, just sort of acknowledges the cliches of the big red button that you have to press in order to stop things. The countdown thing, the whole time, of course, it running to zero, actually, it's not really a cliche. You don't normally see that happen, but yeah, it was kind of like the big sort of cliche thing you see in all the sci-fi movies and everything. So that annoyed me a little bit, and there was one other moment, the cab with the cops saying, follow that cab and go after it. But again, there's a little bit of a twist on the old sort of cliche, the fact that Stan's not actually in it. He just tells the cab to speed away and fool them into thinking that he's in it. Also, a little bit of a risky move, with it being, a Disney show of having Stan, swear in that security video. Obviously, you don't hear him swear, but the implication that he swears right there, and even sort of acknowledging the fact that he's going to swear there, that was a little sort of edgy. And I really like the fact that they've been able to get away with things like that, and they've been able to put kinds of those sort of things in there. And Zeus's joke about the final countdown, as he was saying that, oh, it's the final countdown, I almost sort of thought to myself, oh, it's like that song. And then he said it, just like they always sung about. It's like, oh yeah, brilliant, kind of an old 80s reference, kind of for the more sort of adult audiences out there. I mean, I'm still a bit young to have remembered when that song came out, but, I still know it and everything, Everybody, above the age of 20 probably knows that song. But yeah, other than that, there actually isn't much to say about this, because this is more just sort of setting things up for I don't know, it may well be the climax, may well be the finale of Season 2 that is coming next, even though we've only had 11 episodes up to this point. Short season, then. But yeah, it's all just sort of setting up, all just asking a lot of questions. Who is this guy? Is he Stan or not? What exactly is this machine? Why have they read a newspaper report saying that Stan's dead? Is this, Stan's brother? Is he the real Stan? Where's he been all this time? Why do people think he's dead? Why did he write the journal? Just a lot of questions that need to be answered now about, this episode was just setting them up and letting people figure it out. And I'm not really here to sort of theorise or speculate about things like that. I'm more just here to sort of assess what I thought of the episode. And to be honest, there isn't a huge amount to say at this point until we sort of know some answers, really. So, this is probably going to be much shorter than usual. But yeah, just a lot of sort of edge of the seats type stuff. This probably isn't a kind of episode I would recommend anybody watch just on its own. When you're going back to it, watching it years later, it's kind of the kind of episode you need to watch the next episode immediately afterwards, really. So it kind of sucks only being able to see this episode on its own at this particular point in time. But obviously, with the next episode not being out yet, you have no choice. So that's kind of the burden of having to watching episodes when they're on. You get to see them straight away, but then you have to wait to see what happens next. And normally that doesn't bother me, but with an ending like that, it actually does kind of annoy me. And very eerie post-credit scene as well. I'm really sort of wondering what... Obviously that's Stan and his brother, but I am sort of wondering, why specifically that scene with them on swing? That's that, guys. Again, shorter vlog, really, because there isn't much to say about this episode until, we know some of the answers to the questions it raises. I will see you for the next episode, which I'm hoping won't be too long. Bye-bye.